Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica, and I'm so excited to be here this week with you where we talk all things visibility strategy. This includes branding, public relations, marketing, advertising, and copywriting. All of those really important things that you need to be able to grow your business, grow your brand, and really show up for your clients and for your customers. So if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Saturday Soundbites. And if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, drop us some comments so my guest and I can circle back with you and connect. I have got an amazing guest for you guys today. You are going to love Lucy. She's going to join us in just a second, and she is an expert copywriter. Her story is phenomenal, and you are just going to get so many tips. So make sure you grab a pen or take notes on your device so that you can start implementing some of these practices and strategies to really grow your brand. So with that, I'm going to welcome Lucy onto the show. She is joining us. And Lucy, I'm going to make sure I say your name correctly. Bedewi.
Yes, you got it.
I got it. All right, folks. This is Lucy. Welcome to Saturday Soundbites. Let's talk copywriting.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me.
So excited. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I feel like that's important to set the stage for your expertise. Tell us about how you really got to be the expert copywriter that you are.
Absolutely. So I've always loved to write. And I think like any college grad, when I came out of college, I was like, okay, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. But I knew pretty much right off the bat that I wouldn't be happy in a corporation. I've always loved creativity and kind of forging my own path. So from there, I tried on a lot of different hats. I tried to do social media management on a freelance level. I've tried to do some design work, which I realized really quickly I'm terrible at graphic design. But then I thought back to my days of being a content writer in college and just remembered how much I loved to do it. So I was like, okay, well, maybe my future is in writing. And that's actually when I stumbled across copywriting for the first time. And I just loved how persuasive and conversational it was. And I was like, okay, I think this is my sweet spot. So I did what every new freelancer does. And I created just a Facebook page and said, hi, I'll write for you. And I just approached people who said they needed a writer. And I worked with some small businesses, developed a portfolio, and then just decided, you know what, this is what I'm meant to do. It just felt so aligned. So I built my own brand and then specialized in personality-packed persuasive writing for female entrepreneurs and women-run businesses. And now I love what I do, and I get to help women scale really quickly with just very memorable brand writing.
That's fantastic. And I love that it's so precise. Your description of what it is you do is precise, and the words very clearly set the stage in my mind for what I can expect. And that's what a great brand does. A great brand communicates that. So tell us how that happens, because in my mind, it's like, yes, dot connected, but there's a strategy and a skill and a talent. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So when it comes to copy, I think a lot of us were taught how to write in a way that's not conducive to copy. We were told in English class to use compound sentences and flex all of our education through great vocabulary. But when you're writing copy, you want to keep it short, snappy, third grade vocabulary. You just really want people to go onto your site and know exactly what you do from the first couple of seconds.
Yeah, for sure. And where do you think most people stumble? Obviously Saturday Soundbites, we talk about branding and getting your visibility out there. And so
Yeah.
folks are doing it on their own, but where do they stumble when it comes to really honing in on that message at that third grade level that's snappy and really attracts readers?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times people are just in their heads. I think, especially when we're trying to write about ourselves, it's really hard because we're so close to ourselves. We're like, okay, I don't really know what to say. Like, this is what I do. So we like talk around it instead of just saying like, I am this label, I will do this. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. So it's just a matter of like taking a big step back and thinking at a macro level, like what is the value that I'm bringing to the table and how can I communicate that as quickly as possible?
Mm-hmm. Are there strategies to do that? Are there exercises or quizzes or things that people can do to start fine tuning? Sometimes people write really long essays and dissertations and it
Yeah.
doesn't work. How do you narrow that down?
Yeah, I think part of it's just repetition. I mean, a lot of us, when we're starting a new business or we're growing our business, we're telling family and friends, like, this is what I'm doing. And maybe the first family or friend that you said it to, it was like a 5-minute monologue where you're like, okay, so I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then you get it down to like an elevator pitch, which is 30 seconds, where you're like, this is what I do. This is who I am. So really, we're doing the exact same thing, but just written and not verbally. So what I would recommend people do is like write all that stuff down, like write out your essay. It's totally fine. And then from there, start cutting out the fluff. If you're like, okay, well, people don't really need to know that until they've signed on with me, then that shouldn't be in your sales page. Or people don't really need to know that about me. That's not one of my core offerings. Then you can just tell people later on in the funnel. So just as little information as they need to become interested in you, and you can always give more details later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And do you feel like there's a different skill set or strategy that you need to take when you're thinking about writing for social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to social media, like I say copy is casual and snappy. Social media is a whole new level because you have people just like scrolling and scrolling. So, you can capture them with like a stop sign emoji where I probably wouldn't do that in web copy. So I would say even more casual, more conversational, crack more jokes, show your personality, use emojis. When you're writing a caption, space it out so they're not looking at a paragraph of text. They're looking at just like a couple sentences or bullets where they can just quickly scroll and keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That's some really great advice. And how do you write differently for Facebook? Because I know a lot of our viewers are watching this on Facebook. How do you
Yeah.
write for Facebook versus writing for Instagram? Because I know that there's a distinction, and I think some entrepreneurs struggle with. My time is limited. I want to write one set of social media
Mhm.
copy, and I want to use it for all of it. How do you help them figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is get yourself a really great VA who can repurpose your stuff. Because if you can write one thing and maybe give a value point or do a sales caption, they can kind of do these little tweaks. Because the truth is, it is different. If you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, these are all different audiences. So just that copy and paste probably won't be effective. When it comes to Facebook, though, specifically, especially if you're posting in Facebook groups, those things are saturated. So, my best advice for you would be have a really great hook, and even if you're doing long form, avoid the tendency to ramble. You just want to say, like, this is how I did X by doing this. Do you want in? And then you give them a call to action. Or if you're going to do long form, just making sure that it's going somewhere. I think the biggest issue I see with copy is people have a lot of amazing things to say, but the flow isn't there and they kind of lose people in the meat and the middle. So I would say strong hook, give them what they need in terms of value, and then CTA exactly where you want them to go.
And describe to me what your version of a strong hook looks like. Say, let's just make it up. Say you're working with an entrepreneur and they are a coach of some kind. What
Yeah.
would a strong hook look like in that space?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of dissonance. So essentially, if you've done something by going against the grain, that should be your hook. So if you say, I had a 100K day and I've never hopped on a sales call, immediately, like you're going to get so many people that are like, wait, what? I can make six figures and not hop on sales calls. So stuff like that. If you've done something by going against what people traditionally do, that is going to immediately draw eyes.
That's really great advice. What are some mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making in their copy? I saw something recently, and it made my brain stumble for a little bit, and it was something to the effect of other coaches are not being truthful, and they're not, and it was almost like a negative attack on the
Yeah.
industry. And I was like, I think I know what you're trying to do, but I don't think you're getting there. What are some of the mistakes that you see people making in the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just gave a really great example of people that use this idea of like scarcity or tearing people down to sell themselves more. And I'm all into like ethical copy. Like, let's show people how you can serve them, how you can help them. There's no need to tell people they're a failure if they don't invest in you. It's just unnecessary. It puts a bad taste in people's mouth and it frankly hurts your brand. I think another big thing, though, that I see is just too many words. I
Mhm.
think always, like, I joke, people will be like, oh, but can you write like more words? It's probably better for me. And I'm like, no, you definitely want to say what you want to say in as few words as possible whenever. Unless you're going for SEO with like a long form blog post, your web copy just needs to get it out straight to the point. With that being said, long form copy does work, but just always remember that when you're writing a lot of text, use bullets, use shorter sentences, anything that makes it more skimmable. So, like a really bold headline is just going to be so much better than just creating this long block of text that people are going to glaze over.
Mhm. I agree. Our eyes have been trained to
Yeah, so we all
read.
have goldfish attention spans.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's a great analogy. So let's talk about long form copy.
Mhm.
When is that appropriate? When is it appropriate to really get into some concept or idea that you want to share really deeply? When do you see that really happening and being successful?
Yeah, so like super simple formula that obviously has exceptions is the more money someone's giving you, the more copy there should be on the page. So if you're doing some sort of freebie opt-in, you can usually get away with just a couple of sections in a form. But let's say you're selling a $10,000 coaching package. If someone's going to give you that amount of money, they're going to want to see all of the different aspects of what you can do for them. So that's when you really dig into that long form sales page where you show them the value, the transformation, you tell them how you're going to totally remedy their pain points. And then another thing is if your product's really technical, it can be really helpful to have a lot of information. So someone who's very serious about buying doesn't have any questions and then they're just ready to go.
Yeah. I think that's some great advice. I actually wrote that down. The more money someone is giving you, the more words.
Yes, that's my very simple math formula for anyone who's like, just give me a rule.
That's a great rule. What are some mistakes that people should avoid?
When it comes to long form sales copy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake I see is people that sell features instead of transformation.
Mm,
Very like unless you're buying toothpaste where you're like, I just need to have clean teeth. Most people aren't buying like a gym membership because they like love going to the gym. Like, I mean, if you're like that, props to you. I'm not like that.
yeah.
They're buying it because they want summer abs, or they're buying it because they want to be really healthy or feel good or fit well into their clothes. So you should essentially sell what they're getting out of it, not just the physical, tangible things that you're actually selling.
Yeah, that's some really great advice. I like that. What are some other ways or what are some strategies that people can use when they're struggling with their copy? I loved the write it all out, narrow it down. What are your philosophies around, sharing it with other people, A/B testing, some of these
Mhm.
things that we learn in courses about how to measure whether or not our message is getting across?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like A/B testing, I'm such like a data head when it comes to conversion and copy. So definitely, I would check different subject lines with your list, see what's resonating, send it to past clients, say, "Hey, does this sales page, would you like hire me again based on this sales page?" Because the thing I think people run into is they write something and they're like, I'm going to give it to my best friend to read, which is great if your best friend is in your industry or your ideal client. But if she has a corporate job and you're a coach trying to scale to seven figures, well, she's probably going to be like, you're charging too much, or no, it's not compelling. But she would never buy it in the first place. So make sure your proofreaders or the people giving you advice are the people that would actually pull out their wallet and purchase what you're selling.
Mhm. No, that's some really great advice. And how do you give us some examples of A/B testing that works well? You mentioned a subject line in an email sequence, but what about for social media? How do you use A/B testing to really identify what's working well in the copy?
Yeah. So I say first, I would like to say like big pitfall of A/B testing is trying to change everything and use it as a test. I would say change one thing at a time so you can truly track the analytics. And the best thing to change would be, I would say like the whatever shows up before they have to click see more on the caption in social
Okay.
media. So that goes for Instagram or Facebook. That's a really great way. Change the headline, but honestly, social is different than like email or web copy, because with web copy you can change headlines, CTA buttons. Email, you can change subject lines, you can change call to actions within the email. But with social, it's like sometimes the algorithm just has a bad day. So it's really hard unless you're running paid ads and you get those higher end analytics to know like exactly what went wrong. I would say just experiment with content and see if your audience is responding more to educational content or if they're loving when you go live, and then just make that a more core part of your strategy.
Mhm. That's some good advice. So let's go back to emails, 'cause
Yeah.
it's definitely a place I wanted to spend some time. Um, where and how do you know, or when, I guess I should say, when and how do you know it's time to start your email sequence? How many are too many? And what are really the keys to knocking it out of the park when it comes to nurturing those emails, getting them in and getting people to open them?
Yeah. So I think it obviously depends on the person. It depends on the industry. It depends on your audience. But as a rule of thumb, I know we probably have some women watching here. I think women sometimes are a little hesitant to send too many emails because they think like, well, what if people get annoyed of me? And I guess my really harsh answer to that is like, if they're getting annoyed of you, they should unsubscribe. And that's probably better for your audience in the long run, that you only have people on your list who want to hear from you. With that being said, I like to keep a ratio of value versus sales. I think if you're constantly just hopping on your list every time you want them to pull out their wallet, they're going to get a little bit of fatigue. So make sure you're having those touch points regularly, maybe every week, a couple times a month. This way they can hear from you, get to know you. So when it comes time to launch, you're not launching to a cold list, you're launching to a list that's already been hearing from you at a very standard interval.
Mm-hmm. That's really great advice. And I always advise people to be mindful of
Mm-hmm.
when to go in and ask for the sale.
Yeah.
Because yes, there is some value in cold calling on people, but really nurturing those relationships in your email that patience can really pay off in the end when you're
Yeah.
saying the right thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And so I love that you said have them unsubscribe. It actually made me a little nervous when you said that because the idea of someone unsubscribing, it's a little painful for some folks. But
I know. Yeah.
yeah, there's tell us about how how you get people there with copy to make a decision if you're right for them or not.
So I have always been under the belief that like you don't need to chase people. You don't need to do all of this like cold pitching and sending cold DMs because copy is a form of attraction marketing. If someone
Mhm.
reads your page and they resonate, they're going to be the one calling you asking for the sale. Like I'm really open about the fact that I've never sent a cold pitch. I have people that just fill out my lead inquiry form. We hop on a 10-minute call and we pick their VIP day. And there's no hard selling. It's just we chat and we laugh and we crack jokes. And then it's like, okay, when are we writing your copy? And I think like if your copy is doing its job, it's immediately weeding out the people that probably it's either going to be a rough road to get them to say yes, or they're just going to kind of waste your time. So by being really brutal in your copy and saying, hey, this is who this offer is for, this is who this offer is not for, you are helping people fall in love with you and you're taking away those on the fencers because they either know if they're right for you or not.
That's such great advice. I love that on the fencers.
Yes, we don't have time. Either you're in the door, you're not in the door, but don't stand in the doorway.
Yeah, I love it. That's fantastic. It's bold and it's exactly what we need to be doing to move our businesses forward for
Yes.
sure. So, Lucy, parting advice for folks who are looking to really either DIY it or start looking for someone like you to work with. What do they need to be looking for when they're looking for a copywriter?
Yeah. So, first things first, I would say know as much about your business as possible. As copywriters, we will come in, we will totally like look at your business and be like, we could change this, we could change this. But I think having a strong sense of your brand and what you want to share with the world, your value, your offers, is going to make you so much happier with whoever you're with because they're going to be able to come in and amplify what you already have. So, that's why I kind of discourage people who are just starting out to start with copy. I would say you would definitely want to start with like a coach or someone who can help you narrow things down and just get really focused. And then a copywriter will bring that to life. So
Mhm.
that would be my best advice. But if you're growing, if you're a little bit more experienced and you're like, okay, I know I'm ready for a copywriter, I would say find someone where you just want to read more of their stuff. As copywriters, we always say we're tone chameleons. We can write in whatever tone you want us to write in, and we craft a new brand tone for our clients. But at the end of the day, we all have our own style and we have our own things that we love doing. For me, I love cracking jokes and creating casual conversational copy. So if you resonate, and sometimes if my website makes you laugh, then I'd probably be a really great fit. But if you want something more serious, if you feel like you're in an industry where you need a little bit more of that technical language, then I probably wouldn't be a great fit for you unless you're trying to turn that technical language into something really conversational.
Mhm. That's some really great advice. Well, Lucy, if you are a good fit for someone and people like what they heard today, how can they reach you and tell us about some of the products that you've got going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business name is My Right Hand Woman, right spelled like writing. So you can find me on Instagram at My Right Hand Woman or at my website, myrighthandwoman.com. And my two main offers, the first one is if you're like, okay, just like stop talking and start writing. It would be a VIP writing day where we could do a half day, a full day, or a 2-day retreat, depending on how much copy you need. And we bang it out in under 48 hours. So there's no 4 to 6 week timeline. We just work on your web copy, your sales copy, email marketing, whatever you need. It's basically a sprint. And we use momentum to get maybe 2 long form sales pages done in a day or 5 web copy pages done in a day. So a lot gets done. And then the second thing is if you're like, that's a little too much for me, I think I want to dip my toes in copywriting, I offer these fiery audits called copy roasts, where what I will do is go into your copy and tell you where it looks really good and where you could benefit from some different actionable suggestions so you can increase your conversion numbers.
That's amazing. Folks, we're going to have Lucy's contact information in the show notes, so you are going to want to connect with her. You have been a great guest. I took so many notes. I'm so excited. It was fantastic. Lucy, thank you for joining us on Saturday Soundbites. I know our audience got some really great content from you today.
Awesome. No, I'm so glad.
All right, everybody. That was Lucy. Make sure you connect with her. All of her information is definitely going to be in the show notes. I got to tell you, words have power. And when you are working on your brand and you are working on all your assets, you want to make sure that you are connecting with folks in the tone you want them to be connected to. So it's super important. I highly recommend you reach out to Lucy if you need any copywriting services. She's truly one of the best. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode of Saturday Soundbites. If you are listening on our podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes. And if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and Lucy and I will come back and connect with you. With that, I'm wrapping up this episode and sending you positive light and energy.